facilitate the cannabis production operation. And as council may recall, the last time that, I guess 2 meetings ago, that you met, the applicants were proposing the same use on the east side of Woodall Way. And the difference between those lands and the lands that they are now proposing the use on is that the lands on Woodall Way are designated or prestige industrial, which is a business park type zone. And in those areas, it's not anticipated that heavy manufacturing will take place, and so there wouldn't be associated odors, vibration, noise, etc. Those things that are, I guess, related to heavier industrial type uses. The lands that are now, the operation is now being proposed on, are designated traditional industrial and have a traditional industrial type zoning, which allows heavier manufacturing type uses, and therefore may have, it doesn't necessarily mean they will have, but they may have odors, vibrations, noise, etc. And so from the planning perspective, we felt that these lands are more appropriate than the last site. It should be noted too that the lands to the north and to the south, as well as to the east, are designated for traditional industrial type uses. And the lands to the east along Devonshire Road are designated for service commercial type uses. Right now they're zone future development. The idea is that over time those uses will be phased out and there will be service commercial type uses in there. And that was part of the agreement that took place between the city and Toyota back in 2008, I believe it was. So just to kind of give you a background of the area, and so in this case we felt that it's appropriate. It's a bit further from the housing that residents were concerned about before, with respect to the proximity. Ultimately, the proposal is the same. The applicant is also requesting to reduce the minimum exterior side yard. So basically, they're asking for the building to be closer to Devonshire, from 27 meters to 20 meters. Staff didn't feel that was a concern. We did receive a letter from a neighboring resident, and the concerns related to light and odor pollution. Also the effect that it may have on property values, and then also the aesthetics, which the applicant already spoke to. On Monday night, we also had a number of residents show up, and their concerns were generally the same as what was in the letter which council received. With respect to the location of the proposal, we would recommend that the application be given favorable consideration as it is a traditional industrially designated area. And these are the types of uses that are anticipated for this area. I can quickly highlight two other types of uses that would already be permitted in this zone. Would be uses ranging from an assembly plant, bus storage facility, cartage express or truck terminal, concrete batching and mixing plant, a fabricating plant, feed mill, flour mill, grain elevator, planing mill or sawmill, as well as a public garage. That just gives council an idea of what other types of uses could already go there based on the current zoning. So our recommendation is that the application be given favorable consideration.
Thank you. Questions of council? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, question to Andrea from the chair. I guess the question surrounds the fact that if we were to vote against this, but there's a favorable planning recommendation coming from the County of Oxford and City of Woodstock Planning Office, what would therefore be the next possible steps that could incur? I know we've had this question previously about voting against something that has a favorable planning report.
So through the mayor to Councillor Schadenberg, what would happen is what the applicant could do next. The next step would be to appeal it to the LPAT. In that case, because the county planning department gave a positive recommendation, the city would be responsible for hiring a planner to defend city council's decision. I would also suggest if council were to take the approach of denying the application, that they should give a planning reason as to why you can't support it, so that when it goes to the LPAT, if that's the course that's chosen, then the LPAT understands why council turned it down.
Councillor Fraser?
Your Worship, and through to Andrea. Just so I got this straight in my head, the only reason that we're here with this planning application is to add this type of industry into the list of allowable uses of this land. And when we think back, before it was the zoning was changed, it was agricultural land to start with. And now we're putting an agricultural business back into it. This is basically we are, if that's the case. Is that correct? Sort of?
Through the mayor to Councillor Fraser, I agree that I guess you could say that it is an agricultural type use. The only difference, though, that I would say, and I'm sure that the applicants would agree, is that when these types of uses are located in agricultural areas, they generally are found in greenhouses, which vent directly into the air. There's no filter. So in this case, the use is fully contained, and they're not anticipated to have any odors.
Councillor Lauder?
This question through the mayor to Mr. Magua. Could you tell us if there's any pending sales in the area that you might be aware of?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Lauder, I think Council's aware that we have been dealing with an individual with respect to the property on the east side of what will be proposed Street C. So hopefully we'll have a report finalizing an agreement coming forward at the next council meeting or the meeting after. So with that particular individual, their plan is to construct a new building and build additional space on the site in the future. So at some point there will be commercial as well, or a commercial type building. I suspect would be initiated next spring.
Further questions? Councillor Accioni?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Mr. Meagher as well. What other type or other areas in the city do we have with similar acreage available, 1-2 acre areas? Is there any other business parks, any other areas that if this wasn't successful, that we can give them the option of?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Accioni, in terms of the municipal inventory of industrial lands, they're pretty limited. We did have an opportunity to look at another property in the Bishop Park area, but that, in our opinion, was actually closer to residential, so we thought it would be fraught with the same issues and concerns. So it really led us back to this specific property. There could be, typically the private landowners in the municipality may look at something like this, but a couple of the major or the larger landowners, I think it would be quite a stretch for them to sever off a small parcel off of, say, a 50-acre parcel for this type of use. So other than this site within the city, it gets pretty slim in terms of other options that we can offer to the client.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Tate?
Just through the chair to the planner, I just have a question just to clarify. On the M3 zoning, are they allowed any retail? Like, I thought for the M3 they're allowed like 15% retail?
Through the mayor to Councillor Tate, I don't have my zoning bylaw in front of me, but generally in the traditional industrial zone, there is a component of retail that is permitted, that has to be ancillary to the permitted use. If council wanted to, we could restrict that so that this use could not have a retail component. That could definitely be an option.
So through the chair, so would we have to make that a condition of the motion then, or do an amendment to restrict it from having any retail?
I think that what council should probably do is direct staff to change the bylaw, because I do have we have a bylaw before you tonight, so we could go back and amend it, and I could bring it back to the next meeting.
Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And opposed? And motion carries. And our next application is for zone change at 201 Bisham Park Drive. Can we have a motion? Councillor Lauder?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approves the recommended zoning bylaw amendment file ZN 8-19-26 for lands comprising of Part Block 4, Plan M73 designated as Part 2, 41R 7606 in the city of Woodstock, whereby the lands are proposed to be zoned for Special General Industrial Zone M3-7 to Special General Industrial Zone M3-2 to eliminate the split zoning that currently applies to the property. And further, that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Accioni? Ms. Haschler?
Thank you. So this application for zone change is simply put, it's to correct a mapping error that occurred back in 2006 when when the lands to the east were rezoned. And so right now the subject property, as you can see, has split zoning. The zoning bylaw interpretation section indicates that if you have a split zone, you use that zone line as a setback line, which would sterilize a portion of these lands. So the city has put forward an application to eliminate the split zone and to give it a straight zoning at this point in time. This will allow the site to be redeveloped. The application was circulated to staff. There were no comments that were received. And so we recommend that the application be given favorable consideration, which would allow the site to be redeveloped, so it'd be an efficient use of the lands and services that are already available.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, you have a question? Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, from the chair, I guess, through to Len Magyar from the Development Office. Is there a specific user already for our proposed use for this land?
Your worship, through to Councillor Schadenberg, we have an individual who's interested in this property, and this essentially is how we've discovered this issue. So, yes.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And our next application is for the Woodstock General Hospital Trust at 525 Brand Street. Councillor Lauder?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council advise the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject property subject to the following conditions. 1, the owner provides confirmation of the location of any existing overhead or underground services installed to the retained and severed lots. Services cannot traverse the adjoining lots, and any conflicts must be redirected or an easement created. Any proposed easement shall be reviewed by the City of Woodstock. The owner shall agree in writing to satisfy all requirements, financial and otherwise, of the City of Woodstock regarding the installation of services and drainage facilities. The owner shall submit a recent survey to confirm lot sizes to the satisfaction of the City of Woodstock. The owner shall prepare an overall grading plan and stormwater management design plan for both the proposed severed and retained lots to the satisfaction of the City of Woodstock. And the owner shall enter into a severance agreement with the City of Woodstock for the severed and retained lands as set forth in the City of Woodstock bylaw number 5266-76 and amendments thereto. The agreement will be registered on title by the owner. The clerk of the City of Woodstock advised the Secretary Treasurer of the Land Division Committee that all requirements of the City of Woodstock have been compiled with.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Tate. Ms. Haschler?
Thank you. So this application for severance is simply to create a new lot for future residential development. As council may recall, a very similar application came before council back in 2016, and the intent was basically the same. At the time, the applicant was trying to, and the same goes for now, is they're trying to separate lands that are contaminated from lands that are they almost have a record of site condition for those lands. So the lands to the north, they figure the record of site condition will be ready by the end of 2019. And so then those lands can be conveyed to the future developer. And development could start subject to a plan of subdivision and if any zone changes were required. And then the lands to the south, they're still doing monitoring and testing on those lands, and they do feel that they can get a site or a record of site condition by the middle of 2020. So the intent of the developer long term would be to apply for a draft plan of subdivision on the entire property, and then develop it in phases. So the northern part would be developed first, and then as the record of site condition came forward, then the southern lands could be developed. The building department indicated that no building permits will be issued until a record of site condition is presented. And also if there were any split zones, as I described in the last application, that no permits would be issued on those sites either. So back in 2016, when the applicant applied for the severance, it was approved. However, they let it lapse because they still needed to do further testing, and the extent of the contaminants had not entirely been determined at that point in time. So they're simply coming back and asking for a very similar severance, and then just basically to go ahead and start to develop the site. In our opinion, the application, it can be given favorable consideration because it is a redevelopment of an underutilized site. It's currently vacant. There's services that are available. The city, as most people know, reconstructed Vincent Street, and so there are services now in the ground so that cuts didn't have to be made again going forward. And we feel that it'll provide a good mix of housing, which the city is in need of.
Thank you. Questions of council? Councillor Lauder?
No question, but I'm just thankful that we're finally moving ahead with this. And I sit on the Woodstock Hospital Foundation Board, and we will be happy to see this, at least even this much get developed. So this is great news, I think, for the city of Woodstock.
Thank you. Councillor Schattenberg?
Yeah, from the mayor again, mostly just a comment again. I remember it's probably, I think it was April of 2012 that there was big public meetings at what was then the Legion. Now it's Faithway Baptist Church, and had to have been 200 people that came out to look at all the easels and drawings of possible zonings and low density, medium density, all kinds of discussion about future residential growth on that lot. So it's good, again, that's had to have been 2012. I don't think it was any earlier than that, but that's 7 years that this process has kind of gone on. To see this finally moving forward, I think is good news for people in the neighborhood, because the parking lot just does not look good anymore, especially along Vincent Street, what's left of that lot. And just good for the neighborhood, good for the city in general to move forward on this.
Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And our next item on the agenda is the draft plan of subdivision. Councillor Schattenberg?
Yeah, the recommendation that the Woodstock City Council advise Oxford County that the city supports a 3-year extension to the draft proposal of the Lunar Group subdivision, which is 32T-08003, for lands described as parts of Lot 14 and 15, Concession 1 of obviously former Blandford Township in the city of Woodstock. to October 31st, 2022, as well as the proposed amendments to the existing conditions of draft approval as set out in report number CP 2019-334.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Fraser. Ms. Hassler.
Thank you. So this application for draft approval extension originally had draft approval in June 2009. Since then, 5 phases of the subdivision have been registered, and they continue to build in the area. This time, generally, the planning department only recommends that a 2-year extension be granted. In this case, based on the pace that they've been developing this area, as well as the amount of land that's actually left in the subdivision, we feel that 3 years would be appropriate. There's sufficient capacity for servicing in that area. And I should point out too, through the agency circulation, the Parks Department has asked that if this request is granted, that a condition be included for blocks 61 and 62, and so that's these 2 blocks. And there's actually an error on this plan. This block 61 has not actually been registered in it, and it says that it has been, but it hasn't. So those are the 2 blocks that the City Parks Department has requested the condition for. They're requesting an arborist report because there are a number of trees located on these lands, and so they would like to know what trees are there in advance of those blocks being registered and transferred over to the city. Additionally, the County Public Works Department requested a condition 2 with respect to the traffic impact study. Back when the draft approval was originally approved, there was a traffic impact study that had a number of recommendations, being that they recommended that traffic lights needed to be installed, as well as a left and right turning lanes at Devonshire and Cardinal Drive. And so the county has asked for a letter of credit for 100% of the estimated cost to ensure that these improvements can take place. So planning staff would recommend the 3-year extension, and we would recommend that the 2 conditions be included.
Thank you. Questions of council? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, not sure to direct this question through to you, your mayor, but someone should be able to answer it. On the bottom of the map, it says future extension of Nella Street. I was under the impression that Nella Street was not going to be extended beyond sort of where it ends now.
So through the mayor to Councillor Schadenberg, the original plan was that Nella Street would be extended. However, that I believe a couple years ago, those lands were actually transferred over to Lunor. Okay, that's correct. So that's an old map.
Further questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is the Woodstock Library boiler replacement. Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize the funding of $40,000 for the library boiler replacement from the capital projects reserves, and further that notice is hereby given that the 2019-2023 capital budget is amended accordingly.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Tate. Discussion. Councillor Lauder.
It's just a comment that I think they'll be happy about this because they were afraid that they might freeze over there this winter. So they'll be happy to see that we're going to maybe approve this.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Next item is the Woodstock Wolverines facility request. Councillor Tate.
I will move that the council receive the reporter's information, but just so everyone's aware, it is getting moved to the 2020 capital budget.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Accioni. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And the next one on the agenda is the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. Councillor Accioni.
Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council support a collaborative approach to community safety and well-being planning within Oxford County and the development of a joint community safety and well-being plan with the lower tier municipalities within Oxford County. And further, that Woodstock City Council approve the terms of reference for the Community Safety and Well-Being Planning Coordinating Committee attached as Appendix A to this report, and the terms of reference for the Community Safety and Well-Being Planning Advisory Committee attached as Appendix B to this report. And further, that City Council authorize the allocation of $10,000 to hire a consultant to act as a Community Safety and Well-Being Planning Coordinator for the development of the Oxford County Community Safety and Well-Being Planning, and that well-being plan, and that the funds be allocated from account number 0170-51015-0519 contingency reserve.
Fraser, discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And our last one on the agenda is the snow maintenance. We're already talking about that. Councillor Schadenberg.
That Woodstock City Council authorized the mayor and clerk to sign the snow maintenance sharing agreement with the Norwich Township.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Tate. Discussion? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, through the mayor, I understand that Mr. Taylor Crinklaw is in the room, and he's kept himself in Woodstock after hours, so to speak, to be able to answer a couple of questions. First of all, there's going to be some areas where there's duplicated streets where it doesn't make sense for the snowplows from Woodstock and Norwich to service the same roads, but there are geographically other areas in the city of Woodstock where this too comes through, doesn't it?
This is the only formal agreement that's come to me at this time. I'm aware of one other agreement with the Township of Blandford and Blenheim, but that's it.
Thank you. Further discussion? We'll be plowing streets and sharing roads. All those in favor? Carries. And bylaws. Councillor Accioni.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lauder that the following bylaws be given first and second reading. 9333-19, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended, southwest corner of Devonshire Avenue and Future Street C, ZN 8-19-28. 9334-19, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended, 201 Bishop Park Drive, ZN 8-19-26. Also 9335-19, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended, southwest corner of Lansdowne and Nellis, ZN 8-19-10. And finally, 9336-19, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10, as amended, south of Oxford Road 17, east of Arthur Parker Avenue.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Lauder. Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Councillor Accioni.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lauder, that the following bylaws be given third and final reading. Number 933-19, inclusive to 9336-19.
Carries. And tonight for addresses, we'll start with Councillor Tate.
Just remind everybody, the election is Monday, and exercise your right and get out and vote.
Thank you. Councillor Schadenberg.
Coming up on Saturday, November 2nd and Sunday, November 3rd, so Saturday 10 till 4 and the Sunday 1 till 4 is the Woodstock Public Library's big book sale. Now they're going to be selling big books, but also small books and medium-sized books. Friends of the Woodstock Public Library is where the funds go, and they're selling DVDs and audiobooks and so much more at the library. It's a great time to go out and purchase books for your home library. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Fraser.
I'm sure you were going to mention this, Your Worship, but this coming weekend is our Sister Cities Fall Festival in Sylvania, Ohio. I think if anybody has any interest in going down and enjoying the Sister City aspect, Sylvania is a beautiful community nestled into you would think it was a Sudbury, well, almost, you can't tell when you leave Toledo and go into Sylvania, but you sure can tell when you get out of your vehicle and start walking around. It's a beautiful community, so I invite anybody in the public that might be interested. It's about a 4-hour drive, but it's worthwhile to go down and see how that community comes together. And that's about it. I guess Halloween will be coming before too long.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Since we're talking about snow, the City of Woodstock is looking for Snow Buddies program. The hours are worth volunteer hours for kids in high school in ages 13 to 17. And there's a free training in customer service, safety, and more going on. And they can call 519-539-2382, extension 2701 to sign up. And on Saturday, November the 2nd, there's a new exhibition opening at the Art Gallery that starts at 2 p.m. And the Woodstock Hospital Foundation held their 3rd annual radiothon today, their fundraiser, and thank you to all those who participated in. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Let me just start off by saying I hope all the students and everything are traveled safely home. My daughter just hit the road about a half hour ago heading back, and I'm sure she's not the only one, so I hope everybody had an enjoyable Thanksgiving with their families as well. Of course, election Monday, get out and vote. It is your right. This is for the federal election, of course. Sister City this weekend is going to be a really good time. Really looking forward to going down this weekend. So I do encourage everybody else as well as to mirror what Councillor Fraser said. And of course, happy Halloween, safe travels, and be safe out there.
Well, thank you. And it's also that time of year where people start getting cold. So remember to take some vitamin C so you don't have the froggy voice I do. A motion to adjourn. Councillor Fraser, seconded by Councillor Schattenberg. All those in favor? We are adjourned.